Hello. Hi, Nyla.
Hello, Uncle Prof. Nice to see you.
Wow. I've
Thank
done I've
you.
done 128 episodes, right? Nobody has
Amazing.
ever called me uncle.
Youngest one, is it, on this live
Yes,
stream?
youngest ever. So
Oh,
thank you for doing this.
record breaking, record breaking.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. You know, when you first asked me to have this conversation with you, my first thought was, why me? I'm a science student. I'm definitely not somebody who studies political science, but I realized that you really don't have to be the most politically informed person in the world to know that it's a genocide that's happening now, and the killing of innocent lives is just completely unacceptable and something that we have to speak up about. So thank you so much
Well,
for
thank you for
having
agreeing to
me.
do this.
No worries. Yeah, very, very more than happy to do this. I actually finished reading a book a few weeks ago, and I feel like as a youth, it has really painted the entire picture clearly for me. And as somebody who doesn't study political science or isn't the most politically informed person, I feel like it's something that's very simple to understand and a very good starting point for any youngster out there. So, yeah, shall we get started?
Yes, let's go.
All right, my first question that I have for you is, what was the inspiration behind writing Why Palestine? And was there any particular event or pushing moment that led you to embark on this journey?
Mm.
Yep.
So it's difficult to talk about inspiration
Mm-hmm.
in writing about genocide, right? So it's difficult to use that word, but I get what you're saying. As a writer, you still need something to get you started to write about it. And I realize I have been speaking about it for so much online. I have written on my IG. So one day I was reading a book outside Wardah, and my cousin bumped into me, and then he said, "Why are you still reading a book on Palestine? Shouldn't you be writing one already?" And I said, "Actually,
Oh,
yeah. Why am I not writing one when I have already written so much online, right? I mean, it's all
yep.
rants, but it was just basically this book is just a compilation of my rants." So at least the very first draft really read like that.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, people gave me suggestions, feedback, and ultimately one of my friends, Professor Yoyan, Teo Yoyan, the author of This Is What Inequality Looks Like, she said
Mm.
when she read it, she read the first draft, she said, "Who is it that you want to reach?" So she said that you don't want to just reach people who already agree with you. So you want to reach people who are outside your bubble.
Yep,
So
yep.
the language that you use must be in line with that. People who already agree with you, they are already listening to your podcast anyway. So I have two audiences in mind. In that's my inspiration in writing this book. So two audiences in mind. The primary audience is the median Singaporean who's not politically aware, who may not know too much about this issue, but I think they can be sympathetic. I think that's the first audience. And I want to reach out to them. The secondary audience is people who already agree with me, people who already feel what I feel like yourself, but maybe I give you a language. Maybe when you are reading it, they say, "Oh yeah, that's exactly how I feel," but I didn't put it in words. I don't know whether you felt that when you were reading the book.
Yeah, I did have a few moments like that, but ultimately I feel like when I first picked it up, I thought, alamak, it's gonna be difficult. The English is gonna be difficult. There are gonna be so many words that I don't know. But it was actually very simple, a very easy to understand read, and I think that's a very good starting point lah for anybody.
Yeah,
Yep,
indeed, yeah.
yep. For audiences who have not fully grasped or understood the history behind the genocide, how would you explain it?
Yeah.
Just very simply.
So very simply, it is if the way I would say it is this, Naila. If somebody went into your house now and tried to kick you out, let's say there are 10 people and there's only one of you.
Mm-hmm.
10 people went into your house, kick you out, what would you do?
What would I do? Wow, I feel so helpless. 10 people against one.
Yeah. Would you just willingly leave, or will you
Oh,
try
no
to?
lah. Of course, try to defend myself lah.
Exactly, right? So even though it's 10 people, even though it's a battle you probably rationally cannot win, any person with some dignity, with some self-esteem, you would expect them to actually just defend themselves in whatever way. Maybe argue, maybe just push back a bit, or maybe fight back a little bit. So it's not rational to expect people whose land is taken away from them to not do anything. So that is really the starting point, because the problem of Palestine is a problem of colonialism, as I mentioned, that the British really gave this land to another group of people while not acknowledging the rights, the political rights of that indigenous people or people who were existing already at that point in time, which is the Palestinians. And when you start off a nation like that, obviously you know that there will always be problems. So overnight, when the state of Israel was formed, so this is what the Palestinians call the Nakba, or the Great Catastrophe. Overnight,
The 1940s,
yes,
right?
the 1948, in 1948. So overnight, people of that country became refugees in their own land. So can you believe it? Just like that, they became refugees in their own land. And people always say, oh, what if Singapore was attacked? Wouldn't Singapore defend itself in the way that Israel defends itself? Well, firstly, I would say no. I don't think Singapore will do that, because when you are bombing people indiscriminately, it's no longer self-defense.
Yeah.
And secondly, I'll reverse the question. What if it is the other way around, right? What if it's Singapore who is doing the occupation? Would you expect the people who are occupied to fight back, to defend themselves? Would you expect them to not be happy with the situation? That is the actual question. Not whether if Singapore is attacked, Singapore will defend itself, because Singapore will defend itself, but not in the way that Israel is doing. Now the question is, if Singapore was illegally occupying a person's land, what should Singapore expect that those people would do?
Understand. Fight back lah, for sure.
Yes, fight back,
For
right?
their
We
land.
have to, and you know, I thought that was the entire basis of our national defense, right? Total defense, and you know, Singaporeans especially should understand this, because as a small country, we cannot allow, right, other people just to come in. And by international law, the occupation of the West Bank of
It's a
Gaza
violation.
is a violation. It's an open and shut case, even before 2023, 7 October 2023.
Then why?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. So why do you think that there's hesitation when discussing Palestine compared to maybe other humanitarian issues like the Russia-Ukraine war, which is something that you also discussed in your book?
Yeah. So that is the other thing that I wanted to really bring up. Sorry, Nyla, I don't know whether my name is not appearing in the, so I don't know whether my followers can see this, but anyway, so the video will be up anyway. So because somebody texted me.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, so one of the things that I guess it's for us, I mean, there's no coincidences, right? It's because it's all decreed by God. But if we were to take a secular perspective, right, it's one of the great coincidences is that the Ukraine-Russia conflict or war happened just a couple of years prior to this. And it really, really exposes the double standards of Western powers. When it comes to Russia and Ukraine, right, it's very clear. And people do ask this from time to time, right? Why is it that you talk about Palestine more than Ukraine, right? And well, there are a few reasons. And one of it is when it's Russia versus Ukraine, it's very clear cut. Nobody really denies, well, there's a small group, but generally people accept that Russia is the aggressor and Ukraine is a victim.
Yeah.
Nobody both sides this, nobody says, oh, nobody does that. But when it
Even
comes
me
to
for that matter.
Sorry?
Even me for that matter, when I consume like media about the Russia-Ukraine war, it's like very clear cut. Russia is the
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to Israel and Palestine, people say, oh, you must understand this, you must understand that. So, and then we have to ask, right, why? Why is that the case? Why is Palestine the exception? Why except for Palestine? Why always Palestine? And you really have to think, why is it that people, and ultimately, after giving this much thought, I would have to say that the only reasonable conclusion is that people don't value Palestinian lives as much as they value other people's lives. That's it. There is no other reasonable conclusion that a rational person can come to, I think.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. It is sad, and it is sobering.
But where
And
where do you think this stems from?
okay, thank you for asking that. And it's really a few things, I think, right?
Okay.
So one is I can understand, even if I disagree, I
Mhm.
can understand that there are some people, they are supportive of Israel because of religious reasons. Okay, whether they are of a particular strand, of a particular faith, or whether maybe they have an ethnic or religious affinity to it. I can understand that. Even if I disagree with it, I can understand it. So that's one where one strand of people who where that comes from, to answer your
Yeah.
question. The second one is maybe for Singapore, some people feel that Israel has helped Singapore a lot, so Singapore is
Mhm.
indebted towards Israel,
Therefore, we
and
should
all of that is true.
defend them.
Yeah. So all of that is true. All of that is true. Israel did defend, did help us, and especially at the time when no one helped us. So we need to remember that. But the counter to that, I would say, is, I mean, there is no such thing as unconditional love, right? And a true friend will never say, "Hey, yeah, okay, you helped me before. Now here's the license to go and do whatever you want, right? Go ahead and murder my neighbor because you helped me 50 years ago." Hey, it doesn't make
Mm.
sense. We
Yeah.
know that it doesn't make sense in any sphere of life. So why would it make sense in international politics? And the
Mm.
third one is, what I would say is, if it's not a religious or ethnic affinity, if it's not because of you feel that indebtedness, because I don't think that should be the case anymore in 2023, especially since as a country which values international law, we cannot let others get away with breaking or violating international law. So
Yeah.
the third reason is, unfortunately, I think, is just pure racism. That's it.
Mm.
That's it. I struggle to think of any other reason other than anti-Muslim sentiments, anti-Arab sentiments. So for those people, right, who do not share a religious or ethnic reason for supporting it, and you do not think that this is in Singapore's interest, I have to ask you, why are you so anti-Palestinian?
Mm. Like, okay, adding on to that, like, could it be just them giving the excuse of, oh, I'm not politically informed, oh, I want to stay neutral? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
On that excuse?
Yeah, so first of all, even outside of this, right, I die a little bit inside when Singaporeans say, "Oh, I am politically apathetic," and then they laugh about it. You shouldn't be
Mm.
laughing about it. You
Yeah.
should be ashamed that you are politically apathetic. But okay, I understand. I understand. Okay, that's for domestic politics. I completely understand. In Singapore, life is hard. We are all in the rat race. We are all hustling all the time. We barely have any time to think about international affairs. So I understand that. I understand that apathy. So not the one that he's super pro-Israel just now I mentioned, right? So the ones who is apathetic or who's maybe ambivalent at this point in time, I can still understand it. Although I think 1.5 years into this genocide, I don't think that should be a legitimate excuse, but I can still understand, and I'm not harsh to these people. So in fact, my book, I think, is targeted towards those people exactly. So I really want to reach out to these people because I do believe the median Singaporean is persuadable. I think the median Singaporean is ambivalent but persuadable, and that's why I want to reach out to those people.
Okay. I think like another issue with this is that many people view Palestine or this entire genocide as a religious or a geopolitical issue, as you also mentioned in your book, rather than a human one. So how do we debunk this narrative, in
Yeah,
your opinion?
yeah. So I don't think we need to debunk it, right? I think we need to maybe modify a little bit because it is a humanitarian issue, but all humanitarian issues are also geopolitical. right? So you can never separate the political element from it.
Okay.
So a lot of humanitarian crises, maybe all humanitarian crises, are a result of political crisis. So we have to accept that. So it is a geopolitical reality. So we shouldn't be afraid of saying that it is a political. I understand where the question is coming from, because the moment you say it's geopolitics, people don't, this is above me already. But you say humanitarian, everybody wants to come on board. But I think we should be okay and comfortable saying that this is at at its core, this is a political problem, and therefore it requires a political solution. A humanitarian solution is only stopgap, meaning donations and all of that. Those are important, but they are stopgap. A long-lasting solution requires a political solution. So that's the first thing. Second thing is it a religious conflict? Well, not exactly, because this is a problem of colonialism. This is a problem of land grab. This is a problem of violating international law. But there are religious elements. So we
Yeah,
also
for sure.
cannot.
Because I have a few friends from different races, and I realized that I think a lot of them generally associate this entire issue with Muslims, and it's because naturally they see mostly it's their Muslim friends who are actively speaking about it, actively posting about it. So I think that's why naturally they're more inclined towards associating it with more of a religious issue rather than a political one.
You
Yep.
right, you're
Right.
right. And I think we can't really blame
Yeah.
them, because, and we also
Correct.
don't have to be apologetic about it. I think it's okay for us who are Muslims, you and I are Muslims. We can
For
own this
sure.
and we can say, of course I feel more,
Strongly about
because
it. Correct.
our holy land is there.
Yep.
But that's not the only reason. I can assure you that for me personally, if it were the Palestinians who are doing this to the Israelis, I would be opposed to it as well, right? Even though
Mm.
we do not share the same religion,
Blood,
even though
same
the
religion. Yep.
yeah. So and that's fine. But I also admit that I feel more for this cause, because Palestine is holy land. Now the second thing is, other than that admission, don't forget that there are Palestinian Christians as well who are undergoing occupation and genocide, and the Pope, the late Pope, actually called the church in Gaza every day at 7 p.m.
Oh.
To yeah, and he did, and he was very supportive of the Palestinians. So, and that's a Catholic, right? The I ended the book with a series of quotes from a Palestinian priest, and this is somebody in the West Bank, and this is a Christian, a Palestinian Christian, right? And we also should not forget that Palestine is indeed the birthplace of Christianity as well. And the priest I quoted, he is from Bethlehem, right, where the place where Christians believe that Jesus was born. So, and he said, um, the Palestinians will recover from this as we always rise and stand up again from the midst of destruction. But he basically says, I feel sorry for you, those who deny this and those who are not supportive of the Palestinians. We will not accept your apology after the genocide. What has been done has been done. I want you to look at the mirror and ask, where was I when Gaza was going through a genocide? I think this is all the more powerful coming from
Yep.
a Christian
Yep.
who's Palestinian. And I think that is the lesson also for us, Nyla, and you and I. We need allies who are not Muslims also, precisely to reduce the perception that this is an entirely
Yep.
religious
And
issue. So
precisely why we're having this
yes,
conversation today, Abdullah.
exactly. So we want as many people on board. We want non-Muslims especially on board, and for them to be advocating for this cause as well.
Yep. Talking about advocacy, it's no doubt that social media has brought about a lot of awareness to Palestine, but that unfortunately also comes coupled together with desensitization. It's something that I am also guilty of. Unfortunately, we've all gotten really used to seeing the gruesome images and videos shared across the internet to a point where we're so used to it and desensitized from their harsh realities. So yeah, it's starting to feel very pointless and demoralizing now, as it seems like whatever we do, nothing seems to be changing much. So how do we strike a balance between awareness and also meaningful action?
Yeah, so thank you for that. So there are multiple layers of questions there.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is the desensitization part, and that is really something that um, we have to think seriously about, because if we are desensitized to murder and people being maimed, maybe that's also reflective of us.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we okay? Are we really not going to be triggered by it? And there's another thing also that could happen, which is we just refuse to see. Right? We are not
Back of the
desensitized,
spectrum.
but we refuse to see because we don't want to be overburdened with it. And then, if that's the case, and from time to time, that's okay. We need to check out from it from time to time. But the problem is, if we do that, then we are making it about us. We are not making it about the Palestinians. Right? No matter how difficult it is for us looking at it, it is not more difficult and nowhere
Yep.
near how difficult it is for the Palestinians.
My
So,
experiencing it firsthand.
so
Yeah.
we cannot check out. We cannot check out. So we really have to ensure that we are doing as much as we can to help the Palestinians, right? So that's the second thing I would say. This desensitizing. At the end of the day, we are only humans. We the more we see something, the more we are accustomed to it. That's just
Yeah.
how it is. That's
Yep.
just how it is. Right? But we must always remind ourselves this is not okay. This is not normal. We shouldn't normalize these things. The things that we normalize, they become reality, right? We should be as outraged the 10th time we see a beheaded child as we saw it the first time. We should be as outraged. There is no difference, or there shouldn't be any difference. So we should tell ourselves that no, this is not normal. Don't normalize this at all. Yeah. So that is what I would say. Now the last question you said is meaningful action.
Yeah. Do you have any,
So
maybe perhaps any ways that we can give back in a more meaningful way besides reposting? Because
yeah,
I feel like sharing the gruesome images again and again, it feels very passive.
right. So I would say there are a few things that we can do, right? So one is, Nyla, we shouldn't even minimize what you just said. We shouldn't minimize what you just said, which is sharing this thing.
Oh,
Because
okay.
that is, I think, one of the, is bare minimum, but it's also one of the important things. And don't forget the reason why. Now, Palestinians have been oppressed for many, many,
Mm.
many, many years. But this time around it is different for two reasons. One is the intensity of the devastation is different. But also, secondly, the Palestinians have circumvented mainstream media biases through their own Instagram. We are finding out about the Palestinians through themselves.
Mm.
So we should share and post. We should share and like posts from Palestinians. We should do that. So that is not something trivial because that's how the world has gotten to know about it. So the first one is don't stop sharing, don't stop posting. Second one, of course, we can donate. We can donate, and even though, as I said, it's a political conflict, we need political solutions. But in the meantime, people are still starving. So if we can donate through the legitimate sources, we should, or outlets, we should do that. The third thing is we can do something that you are doing, which
Having
is uh,
conversations.
having conversation, and that is what my previous guest, who is from Gaza, she said that don't stop talking about Palestine. Don't stop, especially to our friends. It's much easier to post something online than to have that difficult conversation with our ambivalent friend. It's much harder. So we should have those conversations. And the other thing, the fourth thing is something that you are also doing, which is wear Palestinian stuff. You are wearing the keffiyeh.
Yep.
You actually cannot see my shirt.
Oh,
My friend just gave this to me. It's Palestinian and
wow.
Palestine. So you need to do that, and I think not you can do that, and we can start conversations with that as well, right? If somebody asks me, oh, what's the watermelon? What's the significance?
Okay.
People ask what's the kefir, but also just to show that there's still a lot of people who care about this. This is not something which is insignificant,
Yep.
right? It's not something that has died down. It's not something that people have forgotten about. So that's the fourth thing. The fifth thing, I think we can write to Palestinians
Yeah,
from Gaza.
somebody
Oh,
commented as well. Yeah,
did? Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay, yeah. So we can make a Palestinian friend from Gaza or what, and just send them words of encouragement, words of support. We cannot, if we can send them money, we send them money. If we cannot, we send encouragement, right? We do what we can. Another one is we can talk to our politicians about it.
Okay.
We can talk to our politicians about it, just to let them know that Singaporeans still care about it. This is something that is on the table, on the minds, in the hearts of ourselves. And of course, for us, we can always pray about it. But this is a secular session, right? But I just just thought of putting it out there. So we cannot minimize the impact of what we are doing, right? Of course, we know that whatever we do in Singapore, whatever Singapore does, will not affect the Middle East situation. Singapore is not a significant international player, so nothing Singaporeans really do can affect that. Right? But we can two things. One is we can affect maybe individuals here and there, even though we cannot solve the Middle Eastern crisis, the Palestinian crisis. And the second thing is we are doing these things really not for them, but we are doing it for ourselves. We are doing it for our own souls. We want to stand on the right side of history and on the right side of justice. It's more for ourselves that we want to do the right things. It's not to affect the outcome. Forget about the outcome. If we change the outcome, that's a bonus, right? But we are doing it to define ourselves as human beings, to define ourselves as a people and as a nation.
Okay. Yeah. Somebody commented, IG is owned by So I think this is a good time to ask about your thoughts about the boycott, maybe.
Yeah, so
I think I
so that's the
remember we
thing.
had our meal, a little meal before we went on this live stream. You were talking to me about the boycott and how certain things are unavoidable and in fact helpful for the Palestinians. So
Correct.
maybe you can share
Correct. Yes.
what you shared to me.
So it is true that Facebook,
Instagram.
Instagram,
Yeah.
they have been a lot of these outlets. They have been unkind to even our algorithms, right? We should be getting more views, but a lot of times it's suppressed when we are talking about Palestine, and we know that. And I know that my stories on Palestine, they have far fewer views than my other stories. So we know there's a shadow banning and all of that,
Inevitable.
inevitable. But don't forget that it is through Facebook, it's through IG actually mostly that the Palestinians got their stories out. So are we gonna say that we should boycott something like IG? Then it would be the boycott is to hurt the other party, not to hurt us, not to hurt the cause. So if you want a boycott, you must make sure that it is about that, right? And I think even the BDS movement, the boycott, divestment, sanctions, they have acknowledged that it's basically impossible to boycott everything. So they just point out a few things,
Yeah.
right? A few things that major, maybe for F&B, there are 5 or 6 things. Then for entertainment, there's 5 or 6 things, right? Because if ultimately you say everything, people also cannot do that. You're setting yourself up for failure also. But as much as you can, it's okay. So I always think, right? And of course, the three main ones people always boycott would be McDonald's, Coke, and Starbucks, right? And I always see, I always like you always try not to be judgy, but you can't help it, Uh,
Uh-oh.
but I can understand, I can understand,
Yeah.
McDonald's is difficult to give up, right? I
Yeah.
understand. I understand McDonald's is difficult to give up. Okay, so fine. Right? But Starbucks, come on. Come on, like what? $8 coffee. You shouldn't, even without the boycott, you shouldn't be drinking that anyway, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody commented, one thing is for sure, the publicity of the Palestine situation currently is majority coming out in just the Malay Muslim social media feed compared to the rest of the races who don't have a clue on what's going on. Oh.
So I would disagree with they don't have a clue on what's going on, because even the surveys that indicate that actually people do, the public sentiment has shifted. So in Singapore, in favor of Palestinians. It has, so the Yusof Ishak ISIS Institute of Southeast Asian Studies, they do this yearly survey, and you can see that this has happened. So it's far more than Muslims. No, for sure, Muslims feel very strongly about it, and the most strongly about it. You can't deny that. But
Yeah.
I would say that it's not true that the others do
Are
not.
clueless, huh?
Now,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then the other thing, if you feel that is the case, then all the more we need to talk to our non-Muslim friends or non-Malay friends. Right? All the more we need to have those conversations. And it's true sometimes that different people's algorithms are different. But you know, my book has been on the Straits Times bestseller. That means that
Wow. How many weeks
10
already?
weeks only. Oh, 10
Wow.
weeks only.
Only? Amazing.
so
Many more weeks to
so
go. I
yes,
mean,
hopefully. But but it shows that people are still interested in it,
yeah.
right? It
For
shows
sure.
that. So if it's on the Kino, if it's on Wardah bestseller, oh, okay, yes, we can say mostly Muslims. But a few weeks it's been on the Kino bestseller, so that means it would be non-Muslims, right?
Yeah,
So
actually, we
so
went to Kino a while ago and it's sold out.
oh,
We
right,
couldn't
okay,
find it.
okay. Okay,
Amazing.
that's good news.
Very
That's
good
good
news.
news. Yeah.
Very good
So
news.
yeah, so I think we also shouldn't. The reason why I think we shouldn't minimize the impact that uh, the activists have managed to achieve. We shouldn't minimize, because then you would be so downtrodden, like, oh, we've done so much, but nothing has changed in Singapore. But it's not true. And that's why I put a chapter where things have changed in Singapore, right? It's not significant change. It's not monumental changes, but it's still significant changes. And I don't think we should downplay that. If we downplay that, it's to our own detriment. Then we'll feel so sad, so upset, even more upset and sad that the situation warrants now.
I think I also wanted to take this time to talk about one of your chapters about could Gaza have been Singapore? So maybe you can explain a little bit about that, because I remember when I saw this, I was thinking how it's so baffling that they can compare Gaza to Singapore. So maybe you can
Yes.
explain why this comparison exists and why it was worth writing a chapter about.
Yeah,
That was my
thank
favorite
you. So one
chapter,
of
by the
the,
way.
sorry?
I feel like that was my favorite
Oh,
chapter.
really?
I feel like it was
Oh,
the most like,
thank you.
oh wow. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That actually was the least
Oh,
favorite chapter that of mine when I was writing,
oh,
because
nice.
I felt even more angry than writing about the
Okay.
other.
Yeah,
I,
precisely.
yeah,
Precisely.
because I feel that this is so bogus and so ridiculous that it's, why am I even writing to refute it? But I mean, it needs to be refuted. So the background is, this is something, a talking point that the Israelis and pro-Israeli folks have been using, which is Gaza could have been Singapore when Israel left it in 2005, 2006. When Israel left it, if only the Palestinians had developed Gaza. If they had developed Gaza, it could have been Singapore, because it has the advantages that Singapore has, the harbor and so on. But the Palestinians screwed it up, so Gaza could not be
The
Singapore.
Palestinians chose to build tunnels.
Correct. The Palestinians chose to
Um,
build tunnels instead of the economy. So, and I think the most appropriate person or persons to refute this would be Singaporeans, which is why I dedicated a chapter to this. It doesn't make sense to say that could Gaza have been Singapore when Singapore is an independent country. Gaza, Israel left it in the sense that their military was not inside
you
it,
said
but they were controlling the
yeah.
borders, controlling the sea borders, controlling the air borders, the land borders, right? Or controlling the airspace. The Palestinians were still very much under the control of Israel day to day in terms of the economy and so on, what goes in and what goes out. So Israel was never really left Gaza. And in fact, that was the judgment of International Court of Justice as well. In essence, Israel never left Gaza. So even the starting point that Singapore could have been Gaza, it doesn't make sense, because Israel never left Gaza. So it's like Singapore was still colonized, right? And it would be a different version of colonialism compared to the British colonization of Singapore, because it would be a far worse one, what Israel is doing to Gaza. So that
Yep.
talking point, it doesn't make sense, but it comes from a very sinister place. So it's meant to show this. Oh, look at the Israelis. We are so benevolent. We left the Palestinians on their own, but yet these useless Palestinians, they cannot even develop the country. They were more interested in attacking us. Therefore, we have no choice but to come back in. We have no
To help
choice
them
but to
rebuild.
do this. And I saw this, an Israeli, one of the apologies saying that the worst thing about this is we can never forgive the Palestinians for making us kill their children. Can you think how depraved that is? So it's not that we are at fault for killing children, right? But we can never forgive the Palestinians. He said, and he tried to do this to show that, oh, his heart was so generous. We can forgive them for killing our children, but we cannot forgive them for forcing us to kill their children. And there is no situation where you are forced to kill a child, right? There was this comedian, Bill Burr. He said that it doesn't make sense that you can accept killing innocent people as collateral. So if somebody killed, Bill Burr said, somebody killed my wife, and I went over, I wanted to kill him back, but he was holding a baby. I cannot just shoot him and shoot the baby and say, oh, this is collateral. I have to sweep his leg or something, right? And get the baby out of his arms, and then I can attack him or apprehend him. We all accept that is the case in normal life. But how is it that you can say that, oh, let's bomb hospitals, let's kill people, and then it's okay? It doesn't make sense at all. So all of these situations, when we apply it to individuals and daily life, we know it doesn't make sense. But somehow Israel gets away with a lot of all these silly, asinine, ridiculous talking points, including Singapore, Gaza could have been Singapore, which it was never the case. And I just thought, as ridiculous as that talking point was, as a Singaporean, I had to refute it.
Yeah. Somebody commented, because the education in the terror state breeds hate.
And unfortunately, you see that even Israeli youths are getting more and more radicalized in the sense that, Omegle? I'm sure you know, right?
Yeah, I
Nyla,
do.
Omegle?
Oh,
Yes.
there's always Omega Wars. People with the flags in the background.
Yes, yes. So
Is that
there's
what
this
you're
guy.
talking about?
Have you ever seen this guy, this Palestinian dude who's okay, good looking,
Okay.
and do you know which one I'm talking about?
No,
That guy
keep
who's
going.
he's always talking, and then somehow whenever, because Omegle is random, right? Somehow
Yeah.
always there'll be Israelis, and these are teenagers, no? Then they say, oh, we should kill more children, more
Yeah,
Gazan children.
yeah. So could it be their education system? Is there anything that you know about that? That
Yeah,
maybe.
so it's partly that, partly the political system has gotten more and more right wing, it's gotten more, and also, okay, when there is violence, people react to that and become more violent. So that one
Yeah.
is true also.
Okay.
But it's also true that there have been a series of people, a series of history of politicians over and over again dehumanizing Palestinians. They call Palestinians vermin. They say, and this is way before 2023. And then you have American politicians saying there is no innocent civilian in Gaza. There are people, Israeli politicians who say children in Gaza deserve to be killed. They brought it upon themselves. Children,
I
they brought
remember
it upon themselves.
that scene.
And when you normalize this kind of rhetoric, children hear it. Of course, where do children get it from? It must be from the parents, must be from the elders, must be from politicians. That's how, you are what you tolerate, I think. As a nation, as a society, the more you tolerate that kind of extreme behaviors, the more you become those kind of
The
extreme
more it will breed,
behaviors.
yeah.
Yeah.
I see. Wow. I always see like a lot of my peers also resharing clips following many Palestinian journalists and all. What do you have for youngsters who feel burnout or despair from constantly engaging in the horrific news? I think this ties up to what we discussed earlier, but yeah, just some words of advice.
Yeah, since Nyla, since you call me uncle, right? So let me give you
Uncle, okay.
some give me some advice as an elderly person or more elder than you to Gen Z. Okay, this is for Nyla and your generation. Oh, by the way, the name is Hamza.
Yes,
Uh,
Hamza. Yeah.
Hamza. absorberity. Yeah. So let me give some advice for Gen Z pertaining to this,
Mhm.
right? And maybe in life also, it's not about you. Okay, it's not always about you. That is the advice for Gen Z, and especially when we are thinking about the Palestinian
Yeah.
cause, we center the Palestinians for the Palestinian cause. We center it around the Palestinians. So we must put the Palestinians at the heart of everything we do. So when we
Yeah.
feel burnt out, when we feel like, oh, I don't want to see this anymore, then you think to yourself,
What
do
about
the
them?
Palestinians have a
Yeah.
choice to check up?
It's not about us. You're right.
Yes, it's not
It's
about
not about
you.
us. Okay.
Gen Z is not about you. Forget about it, right? But
Ouch.
if
Terasa.
if Gen Z, right, Gen Z thinks it's about you, it's because of my generation's mistake, right? My
Oh.
generation has enabled this. We have enabled this kind of behavior. But now it's a time to reset at least this part. At least all of us, even sometimes older people also, people my age, when we are
Yep.
talking about the Palestinian cause, and sometimes I fall into this trap as well. I make it about myself as well. And then I put myself at the center. And then when I do that, then I need to check myself and say, okay, you are not the cause.
Yep.
The cause is the Palestinians. And I quoted, I had that interview with Dr. Ang Swee Chai, and I asked her this. I asked her the question you're asking me. And she basically put me in my place. And she
Okay.
said, if you feel bad about it, go and do something for the Palestinians. If you feel bad about yourself. And I needed to hear that. And if it was me, somebody who's a bit older, needed to hear that, and I'm sure you guys also need to hear that. So this advice that I'm giving you is something that I myself got from somebody who's far more credible than I am,
Mhm.
Dr. Ang. So I'm just relaying to you what she said to me.
Okay. Okay. I think on this note, what do you think true reparations would look like for Palestine?
Yeah, this is a difficult one. So if you're talking about what is the most just solution, what is the
Mhm.
most just solution, right? I think the most just solution would be to uh, have a single state where everybody has equal rights, right? Israelis, Palestinians. It's not a Jewish state. It's not a Muslim state. It's not an Arab state. It's just a democratic state. I think that is the most just solution, but that's not gonna happen. I don't think it's gonna happen. There is no pathway towards that. So what would be a, a, a feasible solution would be the two-state solution, I think. No,
Okay.
where you have that you have to accept that at one point in time, it's true that there can be no peace without justice, but also if you at one point in time you just have to do what Nelson Mandela did, which is once you get that state, once you get that, you just have to forgive even your enemies that have created I, some enemies, not all of them, like the most extreme of them, of course, you have to punish. But if you're going to punish everybody, then that cycle of violence will just continue. So the two-state solution. But we are nowhere near that. That we are nowhere near the solution, right? So what needs to happen now is the Western powers need to turn off the tap and need to say to Israel, enough is enough. When you violate international law, and as Singaporeans, we should be very concerned about that. When you violate international law, we have to accept that there will be
Yep.
consequences.
I think somebody commented something quite. Never take things for granted. Palestinians are the ones truly suffering, and we must be strong in order to support them. Yep.
Yeah, indeed. No matter how strong we are, also we cannot be stronger than them. Yeah.
Yep. Someone also commented, I think we can have a peace deal and have peace just like how we are fine with Japan and Germany after
Of
World
course,
War II.
and peace or change is always impossible until it happens.
Yep.
So 30, 40 years ago, people living in apartheid South Africa thought apartheid would never end. A few hundred years ago, couple of hundred years ago, blacks in America thought slavery would never end. So
Mm.
change is always impossible until it
Yep.
happens.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Okay.
just 2 weeks ago, nobody would have thought that a Muslim guy would be the hot favorite to be the New York mayor, right? And that could happen. That could happen in a few months' time, right?
Yep.
And he's already the Democratic candidate. So change is always impossible until it happens.
Yep. As a Muslim academic in Singapore, how do you view the role of Southeast Asians in supporting Palestine?
Ah, so that's a good question. So Southeast Asia is varied in the sense that Malaysia and Indonesia, especially Malaysia, are strong supporters of the Palestinian cause, and they
Yeah.
traditionally have been. And I think even if you look at the survey that I was talking about, the Palestinian cause is basically supported by most people in the Southeast Asian countries, including Singapore, by more people at least,
Mm-hmm.
other than Myanmar. Myanmar is the outlier. And probably that's also because of anti-Muslim sentiments rising in Myanmar. And that's why Myanmar also has a case of genocide against them in the
Mm-hmm.
International Court of Justice. So that's a separate matter. So other than that, you see this. But Malaysia especially has been at the forefront, and not just now under Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. Way before this, they've always been extremely supportive of Palestinians. Uh, the question is, where does Singapore stand in all of this? And
Yeah.
Singapore, even though it's part of ASEAN, it also has its own interest and its own foreign policy. And I think it's up to us to make the case that it's not just that Muslims are supporting this. It's not just that. Is that we need to support this. We need to support this cause, support the cause of justice, because it is in the interest of Singapore to do so. Right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the things I try to do in the book as well. What is the case that we can make, the political case for this? And for me, again, it's about protecting the integrity of international institutions. If international law can be violated, small countries like Singapore are the ones who are going to suffer the most.
Wow.
So it's
Wow,
up
that's
to
so true.
us to protect the sanctity of international law, which we made a big deal of when Ukraine was invaded,
Mm-hmm.
precisely for that reason. So we should do the same for this as well.
Okay. Somebody asked, in what ways can we as a community contribute more effectively to support the Palestinians?
Yeah, so as I said just now, maybe I don't know whether this
We just
person
joined.
was here. I think we can do a lot of things like donating, talking about it, making a Palestinian friend. The one thing I didn't mention just now was we can visit Palestine.
Oh yes, you did
We
say
can
that in the
visit the
survey.
West Bank. We can visit West Bank, right? We cannot visit Gaza, of course, but we can visit Jerusalem. We can visit the other places in Palestine and see Palestinians ourselves. So Muslims, non-Muslims, anybody can do this. And I think that is another way that we can do. So I see a question about Brunei has been very quiet about it. Actually, if you go to Brunei, you'll see Palestinian paraphernalia all throughout. You see that. But again, Brunei is also a small-ish country. Like the international community doesn't really care about Brunei. So which is why what it can do is also limited. But I think Bruneians are extremely supportive of Palestine. I was in Brunei last year, I think in June, and I was buying something that I asked, it looked like Milo, so I asked the person, oh, brother, what is this? Then he said, oh, this is a Milo substitute. We need to boycott Milo, so I don't sell it anymore. He said that to me. They said, oh, okay, okay, yeah. So Bruneians, I think in general are pretty supportive.
I see. Thank you so much for sharing, asking these questions. I think to wrap things up, what has been the response to your book so far?
Your mother, my
Oh.
friend Nora, says that in Jogja also, you
Yeah,
guys just
Jogja,
came back
yeah.
from
We just came
Jogja.
back.
So
Many.
yeah, so how was it? As in
Oh, lovely.
Palestinian wise, yeah,
Oh, Palestinian wise, yeah, there was a lot. I think in their mosques and all, even yeah, there was a lot of flags.
yeah,
There's definitely that positive sentiment, lah.
yeah. I think that is throughout the Muslim world. That is generally it. I think the Muslim
Yeah.
grassroots definitely feel very strongly about this. So what has been the reception? I think generally it's been good. I think it has been. I didn't have any expectations because you never know, because people don't read anymore. So I don't know whether it would sell. I don't know whether people will read it. But generally, it's been good, and I've gotten quite a few. Maybe I would say 3 dozen or 4 dozen reviews. Like people texting me, "Oh, I read this," or people tagging me and then writing reviews. Maybe a bit more than that also. So it has been pretty positive, but who knows how long it will last. It's been, as I said, it's been 10 weeks already. Hopefully we can go 20, 30 more weeks, because because at the very least it shows that Singaporeans are still very much uh, interested and concerned about the Palestinian cause.
Yep. Oh wow, I just lent your book to my Filipino friend today.
Thank you, Joey.
Nice. Okay, do you have anything, maybe for somebody who's interested in getting a book, maybe you can summarize it or share what you discussed in the
Yes.
book?
Nyla, if I summarize, then nobody will buy anymore, right? So
No,
I need.
just give some context.
Okay, so basically the book is written by a Singaporean, largely for Singaporeans. I think non-Singaporeans can benefit from it, but mostly Singaporeans will benefit from it. And there's also, when you write a book, Naila, there's also a sort of a permanence to it, that writing IG posts or doing IG lives, there isn't that kind of permanence to it. A book is always there, it's always out there once it's printed. So so you can't, basically you can't retract it, right? In a way, of course you can write a different book. So there is no way to retract it, and also you are putting yourself out there quite permanent, because if you are gonna write, you would accept that there will be some people who would be reading it, trying to dismantle it, right? And that's okay. As a writer, you have to accept that, especially for such a topic. You know,
Yep.
this topic polarizes, so obviously there will be a lot of people who would read this, trying to debunk it, and I welcome it. I welcome it, and I hope
Has there been
people who
any so far?
I've seen a couple of comments online, but it's not on my post. It's on other people's posts. But I haven't. Uh, I've asked people before who say this disagree with me. I say I want to have a chat with you online, but none of them have accepted so far. Hopefully, I hope to have a chat with somebody who disagrees with me, and then we can really have a discussion. Why do you disagree with me? Why do you think whatever you think, right? So, um, so what I would say is this book is a short read and it's by a Singaporean for a Singaporean audience. And why should we care? And the way I structured this book, right, every single chapter starts off with something that I have been asked personally, or I have seen that question being asked in that way. So the first chapter, after the prologue, of course, which is my my introduction about it, why I'm interested in it. So the first one, chapter one, is why keep talking about Palestine. The second one is why don't they just migrate, which is a strange question, right? Which I still got a DM last week. They said, "Oh, if this was me, I'll just migrate." They said, I hope most Singaporeans don't think like you, because that means the moment we are invaded, you'll migrate, right?
Yeah.
And I said to that person, can you write this publicly? Don't write this on DM. Can you write this on your Facebook? Because that was a Facebook DM. And then let's see whether you still have friends after that, right? That because I asked him that if Singapore is invaded, will you leave? He said, yeah, I'll leave in a heartbeat. I said, can you write that publicly? And he didn't, of course. The third one is, could Gaza have been Singapore? The fourth one is, isn't this about religion? So I talk about how it is about religion and how it's not about religion. And the last one is I wanted to end on a hopeful note, because the point of writing the book is to spur people into action, right? Into thinking that you can do something about it. So I don't wanna make, there are some people who believe in the cause, but they say, there's no point doing anything because we cannot change anything. So that's why
Yeah.
it's very important for us to acknowledge when the government has moved, and the government has moved. The Singapore government has moved on certain things. It's important to give credit to them, not just to be fair to them. That is important, of course. But it's also to give hope to the people who are advocating for the cause. So to see our actions resulting in tangible change. Instead of saying, oh, this one wayang, only this one wayang, they are doing it. The other thing is, before the elections, people were saying, oh, the government is doing this for the votes. Of course, every government does things for votes. And that's what you want governments to do. Governments to react to people for votes. Right? So it doesn't make sense. Why would we dismiss those things? So what is the point of doing anything? That's the last one. And that is really for people just to end off, just to spur them on, and just to, as depressing as the situation is just to remind people that there is hope. And the moment we lose hope, we lose life itself.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody suggested um audiobooks.
Ah,
Some people listen to the gym.
okay, audiobook.
Oh, your
Okay.
thoughts on audiobooks.
We are trying to make people lazier and lazier.
I
So
knew you
that's
were gonna say that. That's why I asked you what's your thoughts on audiobooks. I knew you were gonna say that.
okay. Maybe let me consider this. Okay, let me consider it. Maybe Nyla, you can do the voiceover, for the book.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey.
We'll discuss that. We'll discuss that. I need to find out your rates.
Oh,
Okay.
my rates.
All right.
Alright. Thank you so
No
much, Uncle
problem.
Wali.
Thank
You have
thank you,
any
Nyla, for this.
final thoughts?
Yeah.
Share.
Firstly, I wanted to thank you, Nyla, for doing this
Oh,
and
thank you. Thank you,
for
really.
being my youngest ever guest. I know that
An
initially you
honor.
were thinking, as a lot of Singaporeans do, which is, oh, am I qualified to talk about this? And I always go back to what Shu Ann, who endorsed my book, she said, when she was asked, "You're just an actor. Why are you talking about this?" And then she said, how smart do I need to be to know that killing people is wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't need that much knowledge. All we need to do is have a heart to be able to talk about this. Then, of course, that is the starting point, and then we equip ourselves with knowledge. So that's the first thing I wanted to do. Thank you. And secondly, of course, I hope people get the book, not just for my sake. Of course, there is that narcissistic element, but also it shows that people still care about the Palestinian cause, right? And there are many, many other things that we can do, of course. It's not just about the book. But hopefully, and there are some people, a few people have told me, oh, this book is too basic. I said, that's good. That if you didn't need my book, right, this book wasn't meant for you. You are at a different level already. I'm trying
Yeah.
to reach people who are not at that level. Yeah. So thank you. I don't know whether you have any favorite parts that you want to read out or. Yeah.
Wow, too many. I highlighted
Oh, okay.
my favorite part
Okay.
too. But I really wanted to share
Yeah.
the letter that you wrote for us
Oh,
when you gifted us this book.
okay.
Esma, Nura, and Nyla, thanks for the support. My family truly appreciates your friendship. Hopefully, by the time Ada, my youngest 6-year-old sister, reads this, the book does not make any sense anymore because Palestine would be free. Yeah, I thought that
Oh,
was
that's right. That's
very
yeah.
lovely.
That was a lovely note. I forgot I wrote that, but
Oh, self-praise.
somebody has to do it. Self-praise is a bad thing, but somebody has to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very
Th-
lovely. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Nyla. Thank you.
Thank you
This
so
was
much.
lovely. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Good
everyone,
night.
for joining.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Oop, bye, guys.